Welcome to Real Gardens. Well, it's been a funny old summer. One minute it's boiling hot and then it's freezing cold and we've had pouring rain and yet below the surface of the soil it's bone dry. But as gardeners, there's nothing we can do but accept it and deal with it, which is certainly what our Real Gardeners have found this week. This week, Anne-Marie is pulling rank in the Cotswolds.
You trying to tell me how to lay gravel? You haven't got any MyPex down, no hardcore.
And Carol Klein is going back to her roots in Devon.
It looks lovely and wild.
Yeah, well, you're a wild woman.
The countryside around Huddersfield in West Yorkshire is still lush and green after our wet summer. On the edge of one of the old industrial villages, Adam Waterman raises organic vegetables on his 3 allotments. Adam grows his produce on raised beds covered with horticultural paper that are the cutting edge in organic gardening. He always has something unusual to show me. Hi.
Hello, Monty, my friend.
Now, I put the straw down.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
So how are you?
Very well. You?
I'm fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you tying those up?
Well, they're starting to get to a size where I don't really want the wind to start taking out the tubers. They'll knock them away.
But I thought the whole point of Jerusalem artichokes was to absorb the wind and act as a windbreak.
It'll still act as a windbreak, but I think they could look quite nice as well.
I never grow them to eat because they're so flatulent.
A night in with the boys.
You wouldn't want a night in with me after Jerusalem artichokes, but they look very healthy, don't they?
Yeah, they're a nice-looking plant. They were left over.
When I last saw Adam's allotment in July, many of his plants were behind, but now they seem to be catching up. The kale and broccoli are branching out. The artichokes are ready to eat, and the potatoes are in full bloom. Our first task today is to earth up the potatoes. Usually soil is ridged up to prevent the tubers from growing green, but in Adam's no-dig garden, the soil is replaced by straw. So how thick do you want it on?
About 4 inches, 5 inches, about that. Basically to cut out the light.
And the paper doesn't do that?
No, not quite enough. Last year I didn't bother doing this, and I suppose about maybe 5%, 10% got green, the very top ones.
And what do you do with the straw when you finish?
Well, I'll either compost it, or I might cover the asparagus in the winter.
Adam's experiments don't stop with his potatoes. In his polytunnel, he's growing rare varieties of vegetables, some of them on the brink of extinction. Now, why have you got me grovelling down here, looking at these scrawny melons?
They're scrawny. They're lovely
young.
little classic heritage melons, these. These are green nutmeg melons.
Right.
And then I have Blenheim orange over there.
Okay.
And I don't want them to cross-pollinate, which they would do if I left them to insects to fertilise.
OK, so you've just got 2 of them you're growing,
Just 2. I only got 3 seeds. And then,
really? Just that
yeah,
few?
Yeah, so I'm down to 2 plants.
OK, so they're very precious.
They're very precious to me, yeah. So that's why I hand-pollinate them.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I've hand-pollinated melons, I've done it with a brush.
Right.
Is that how you do it?
No, I don't. All I do is identify the male flower. This is a male.
Yeah.
This is a female with the fruit at the back.
And if it's not a female, it must be a male?
Yeah, exactly.
OK.
So all you do is you pull off a male flower.
Yeah.
And you pull away the petals.
That's quite drastic, doesn't it?
Yes. And you get the male part of the flower
Right,
there.
so you're just revealing
The pollen sacs in there, and you insert it into the female.
OK.
There you
All
go.
right. And how will you know when it's pollinated it?
Because the actual fruit will carry on swelling.
So if it doesn't pollinate, it doesn't swell?
Exactly, because
OK.
the fruit will simply drop off.
And why are you so interested in this heritage seed business?
Plenty of people protect tigers. Now, if people don't protect these kind of heritage plants, then they will go extinct. And other benefits are, I think, they taste a bit better, some of them. I think a lot of them are more ornamental. And a lot of them display a way of getting out of pest attacks that a lot of modern crops don't.
Adam is a member of the Heritage Seed Library, which aims to protect vegetable varieties that would otherwise disappear, partly because EC regulations restrict the range of seeds on sale. Volunteers like Adam, along with Prince Charles, are seed guardians who grow and look after some of the heritage varieties, like this rare kind of bean.
Mr. Bounds pea bean pea.
Right.
And all I do is monitor its growth. I monitor how long it takes to flower, I monitor how many seeds will come off it, and then I collect them all up and send them off to Henry Doubleday.
They're trying to develop a gene bank of organically raised plants. And do you have to send all the seeds back to them, or do you allowed to keep as many as you like?
I'll keep a couple of dozen for myself.
And you're allowed to do that?
I think so. I think so. It's good enough payment, isn't it?
You could send some to me.
I'll send some to you, Monty. Don't you worry about that.
Seed guardians are required to keep detailed logs with photographs recording exactly how much work is involved in caring for each variety. Adam and I are making a special trip to take his records to the Seed Library, which are based at the Henry Doubleday Research Association near Coventry. This is the place.
I have a timesheet for a seed search thing, and I have Uncle Bert's purple kale for you.
Hey.
This is paradise. This is paradise.
The Heritage Seed Library stocks seeds from over 700 old varieties which are no longer commercially available. Members receive a limited amount of seed for free and can swap them with other enthusiasts. In the HDRA polytunnels, dozens of varieties of heritage vegetables are grown for seed. See all these different beans.
Yeah,
It is
tomatoes,
extraordinary.
peppers.
What seems to be extraordinary to me is that they look identical, even though we know the fruit and everything else is going to be quite different.
Yeah. Oh, early Warwick. Now, I recognise these from the catalogue. 1890 they were from a seed company that's no longer in production, so you can't get these. The beans are dual purpose. They can be dried or eaten fresh. They're coloured. That would hit me. I would have them.
It obviously has hit you, because
Yes,
you know all those facts.
yes.
You're waiting, aren't you?
I am. I'll be ticking these ones off.
Right.
It's like being a kid in a sweet shop.
Is it?
Yeah.
Now this one is completely different.
Yeah. It's
Sort of
lovely, isn't it?
bleached bones of plants. I know these leeks fantastic. Of course, if you had lettuce like this, you'd be really annoyed with yourself.
But if you collected the seed, you'd be completely made up.
Certainly this has inspired me to keep my own vegetable seeds, because we keep a lot of flower seeds.
Right, and you're going to become a guardian. Because I've noticed a bean there. Don's Delight. Broad bean.
I like
Go
raw
on.
beans.
Go on, Monty, you can do it.
We'll see. Since Anne-Marie first visited Dilys Wilson 3 weeks ago, they've rebuilt a dry stone wall and constructed an arbour. This week, Dilys has a new plan to create a kitchen garden, or traditional French potager, by introducing new structure and plants. But she's achieved a lot since Anne-Marie was here last week.
So, come and see what I've been doing.
Oh, Blight, you've been busy, haven't you?
Spent some money, a little urn, in my potager, but I'll come on to that in a minute.
All this new trellising you've put in.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the trellis.
And a pond.
And a pond. It's about 2.5 feet deep because it's not very big. So I need the volume of water so it doesn't freeze in the winter and get too hot in the summer.
Yeah, this reconstituted stone is nice as well, isn't it?
It's very good, isn't it?
It's very real.
I haven't finished. It's got to be levelled off. And
Look what you've been doing here. When did you do this?
yesterday.
My God, you really are going for it, aren't you?
Just a bit.
Are you pleased with this?
But I had no idea this was going to look this big.
Today, Dilys wants to concentrate on the kitchen garden next to the house, and her new urn needs some adjustments.
See what you think from this side, because I think it's too tall.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It is, isn't it?
And this is meant to be a focal point.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be dropped down at least a foot.
Yeah. As usual with Dilys, we're straight into some hard labour. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
You can dig a bit faster than that, can't you? After 3.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Getting the position and level of a large garden ornament right is essential. If the urn is badly positioned, it could upset the symmetry of the whole garden.
Brilliant.
Well, that's pretty much sunk it. How's that?
Come and have a look, see what you think.
That's going to look great with plants just spilling over the top.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
With the urn repositioned, Dilys is keen to show me her new plan for the kitchen garden, based on a French potager, where both flowers and vegetables are grown side by side, usually in a formal design.
Most people have their vegetable pots at the end of the garden screened off, but the end of my garden is where the sun is and where I get the sun till the end of the day, so I don't particularly want to use that space up in something that I can't sit in. And I've got the kitchen right here, so it makes the most logical sense to actually put a vegetable patch here, but I don't particularly want it to be unattractive. It's got to be beautiful to look at, so a potager seems the obvious answer.
And you do get quite a lot of sun here as well, certainly enough to grow some fruit and vegetables with as well.
Oh, yeah.
With Dilys's ideas in mind, we're ready to start planting the urn. Putting stones in the bottom improves drainage and reduces the amount of compost needed. A sprinkling of fish blood and bone will give the plants a good start. And instead of flowers, Dilys has chosen strawberries.
I think this is an excellent idea.
Well, it's a bit different, isn't it? A bit funky.
It's nice, and you see this? This has got a runner coming out of it, and the runners will just flop over the side of the pot. So you'll get all strawberries dangling out and new plants actually growing down.
You know the best bit is, the problem when you grow them on the ground is you always have a slug problem. No slugs.
Absolutely.
Before we plant the central bed, we're digging in 2 bags of compost.
I can hear the soil going,
Dilys has chosen to grow a varied selection of salad crops, herbs and flowers, all of which will grow very fast at this time of the year.
I love these dahlias. They just make me giggle. They're immensely fashionable again now.
How about the flowers going near the urn?
Well, I think we should use that lettuce in a row around the outside because it'd be easier to crop then. You can cut the young leaves off and it'll sprout back up about 5 times over the season. We want it to be fairly random, but I just think that'll look really nice.
Yep, let's go for that.
Dahlias first then. Quite tight. The thing is with this bed is you can change it all the time. OK, let's get these in, so otherwise they'll dry out.
Well, this should be very good for anybody who's into feng shui. All this herbs near my back door and everything.
Really? I didn't know you were into feng shui.
Of a little bit. Herbs are meant to be good because they're healing and they have tranquil qualities and all that kind of stuff.
Makes sense.
And it's the same about water. Water's meant to be good in your garden as well because I think it gives you a sense of calmness.
So how far does this feng shui take you?
It's really strange because if you put certain flowers like roses and things in certain colours in your southwest corner, it's meant to attract love and stuff. And when I used to put roses in my windowsill, my southwest corner, I always end up meeting a really tasty bloke. Very odd, but it happens.
So do you do that on a daily basis?
Yeah, I try to.
Is that it?
You think this is finished, don't you?
Yeah.
I got another job for you.
What?
How are your muscles feeling? Come with me.
To cover the bare earth around the completed potager bed, Dilys has chosen Newbury gravel. The flinty browns, greys and whites will complement the sandy colours of the Cotswold stone walls.
I reckon it needs to be about 1 inch. Much more.
Are you trying to tell me how to lay gravel? You haven't got any MyPegs down. No hardcore. I don't know. I think we should go and have a look from upstairs. Do you?
Yep.
Okay.
My beach.
It's funny, now you've got sun plants in, you're just itching to get more, aren't you,
Yeah.
actually? And that's a real oasis in amongst all of that gravel.
Well, aren't you pleased that you're not going to be here later this week when I do the rest of the gravel around the pond?
Too right.
We're going to take a break now, but we'll be back in a minute or two, and Carol Klein will be visiting Chris and Bill Skills in Devon and helping them to convert a scrubby bit of ground to a beautiful woodland garden. See you in a minute. Welcome back. Now, it's high time that you were propagating your strawberries, if you haven't done so already, because they're putting out runners all the time. And these are perfect plants for next year. Get a 3-inch pot and fill it to the brim with a nice loose compost that the roots can establish in. It doesn't have to be very rich, because they're not going to be there for long. Put them under the runner, either sink it in the ground or, like Adam's garden, if it's no dig, just prop it up in the mulch. You put the runner over the centre of the plant and then pin it in position. It'll root very easily, but it does want to be held there. And a pin either side with some bent wire. Leave that for a month and then cut the runner either side and transplant the whole thing to a new piece of ground. And they should bear fruit next year, and they'll be at their best in 2 years' time. The old crop cut to the ground, and after 4 years, ditch them. Don't hang on to them. Much better to have young, vigorous plants. Now we're off to Devon, where Carol Klein is joining Chris and Bill Skeels, who are having a bit of a problem with a tricky piece of the garden. When Chris and Bill Skeels first went back to the land in North Devon, they didn't have a proper garden at all. In front of the house there were lots of trees, which they cleared to let in more light. Recently they've also done lots of hard landscaping around the house. Carol Klein has been helping the couple to bring the garden together. On the south side, the three of them have planted up a wildlife pond and a bog garden. They've also made a silvery shingle garden just next to their patio. The Skeels are so well organised that there isn't much more that Carol can do. But on her final visit, there's one area left where she can really use her expertise. In front of the house, there's still a shady patch under 2 beech trees that's got Chris stumped.
This bit here is the edge of my garden. I've never known what to do with this area at all, really, so I've just left it.
It's beautiful.
Well, aesthetically and naturalistically, it's beautiful. Gardening-wise, for me, it's not, because it looks too scruffy for me sometimes.
That's what I like about it, of course. It looks lovely and wild.
Yeah. Well, you're a wild woman. But I'm only semi-wild, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Have you got any idea of what you want to put in here already?
I'd like some evergreens. I've got some rhododendrons. We've prepared a bed, and I've got some wild plants that I've kept from other parts of the garden. And I thought then that with some of the shrubs that I've got, I could mix it all up and have a nice combination. What do you think?
I think the whole point about most of the wild things is that they really would prefer this kind of area, you know? In the roots of trees. I mean, that's where they grow, that's where they come from.
That is a real surprise, because I thought that under this beech tree here was so dry. I mean, I know there's things growing there, but I actually wouldn't have put anything there expecting it to live.
Well, let's see how we get on. I think some of these would be perfect under there. So you're going to have your ornamental bit there and your wildy bit under the tree. Where shall we start? Please.
I know where you want to start.
Can we? Because there's quite a lot to do there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm dying to investigate these boxes and see what's in them.
You do that, but it's got a bit chilly. I'm going to go and get the cardies.
All right. Chris has kept some wildflower plants and bulbs in trays while they've been waiting for a home. Before they go into the ground, they need dividing, and I'm starting with some primroses.
I feel like a camper.
Oh, look at this. Gardening in comfort.
A little bit of comfort. There you go.
Colour coordinated too.
But of course.
Thanks, Chris. You've got hundreds and hundreds of little primroses in here.
I knew you'd be excited. Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
I mean, initially it looks like just one clump, but just look at all this new growth. And each one of those is going to make a separate plant. And it's just the right time of year to divide them too. Shall I just tip this right out?
Oh, do you want to put it on here and then we won't lose anything? Yeah.
Ready?
Steady.
Go. This is gorgeous. I'll just shake this bit off. Sorry.
That's okay.
Rough old business gardening, isn't it?
You read this in the books, don't you? And you, when you actually do it for the first few times, you think, oh, I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to tear it to pieces. Yeah. And it actually is good for the plant, isn't it?
Yeah. You've got to be rough to be kind.
So would you leave those roots as long as that then?
No, I think it's really important to trim them down a bit, because if you bung that into a hole, it's bound to go round and round and round, and those roots are never ever going to take hold. But if you trim them to about the sort of length of your palm, you'll encourage the growth then of new little fibrous roots, and this time they'll go straight into the ground that they've got.
Give it a kick start, won't it? So what about I trim and you carry on with that hard job?
Yeah, that sounds a fair deployment of labour. There you go.
Thank you.
I think it would be lovely to put some foxgloves in here too.
Well, I've got lots, haven't I?
Yeah, you've got all those self-seeded ones down by the pond, haven't you?
Yeah, all the way along.
Well, why don't I put these in over here and you go and investigate those foxgloves?
OK.
Yeah? Before I plant the newly divided primroses, I've got to clear the ground of brambles and weeds. The soil underneath big trees is always very dry, and you have to be careful not to damage too many of the roots when you're digging. Chris's ornamental bed will need richer soil, but this is just right for wildflowers. The dormant plants will feel perfectly at home in the leaf mould beneath the tree. Foxgloves have seeded themselves all over Chris's garden. They're biennial plants, developing their leaves in the first year of life and flowering in the second. Although this year all we'll see from these young plants are furry leaves, by early next summer they'll be flowering their socks off.
Haven't you planted them yet?
Yes, I have, but you can hardly see them. Your foxgloves are good, though.
These look magnificent, don't they? But they've got to be planted straight away because they were in the clay and there's hardly any mud with them. Look, they're really bare.
Yeah, but they've got those fine fibrous roots. And this soil is so shallow, they'll just spread out, I'm sure.
I could see that when I was digging them up in the bank. They really sort of spread out.
Yeah, that's what most woodland plants do. You know, nearly everything lives in the top sort of inch or two of the soil because there isn't any more. Too much competition from tree roots. What's in those boxes? Is it bluebells?
Yeah, when we had trees here that we had to take down, these were all living quite naturally underneath them.
Right.
And I know that you're not supposed to leave them out the ground, these bluebells. You're supposed to plant them instantly if you do have to move them. So put them in these mushroom boxes so that they could be in the earth. And so I knew where they were.
Right, exactly. So you kept track on them.
Yeah.
But they'd look marvellous under here, wouldn't they? Oh, look at the bulbs. We can just fling them around and plant them wherever they fall.
They land.
Yeah. I mean, both the bluebells, the foxgloves and the primroses will seed around anyway.
I'm beginning to see
Yeah.
that this could look nice.
Could.
Right, do you think that's it?
Yeah, I think that's about all we can do for now and wait for spring. I've managed to take up all our time with the making of this wild part of the woodland garden. But before I go, Chris won't be satisfied until we've put some evergreen shrubs into her ornamental bed to give me an idea of what it'll look like. I know this is going to look really smart, Chris, but I'll tell you what, I'll bet come the spring, it's that one you're going to be wanting to show me.
I think they're both going to look really nice.
Yeah, of course they will.
Of course they will.
Well, that's it this week from our Real Gardeners, but of course we'll be back next Sunday at the same time. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Welcome to Real Gardens. Well, this is an important part of the year because we finished early summer and we're starting a brand new season of late summer with these wonderful colours like this rich orange crocosmia. You've got burgundies and purples. The kitchen garden's filling up with crops for next winter and spring. Even got its own climate. You'll notice the nights are getting much cooler. It's a good time, but it's also a time to plan ahead for next year. And we see in this week's programme that that can involve some fairly tough decisions. This week, I'm polishing off an entire rose hedge in Guernsey.
It's like a fox trot.
Carol Klein is burning up half the garden in Wiltshire.
Oh, Mrs.
And Anne-Marie is making mud pies in an old sink. Late summer brings a new flush of colour to Liz Collenette's Guernsey garden. Liz and her husband Rod have lived here for more than 20 years, and the garden thrives in Guernsey's mild sea air. On this, my last visit, I'm making a final tour of Liz's herbaceous borders. God, these have come out. These are brilliant.
Do you like them? Stargazer
Yeah,
lilies?
I mean, I like them. They're like sort of an outrageous ice cream, aren't they?
A bit pampered old lady rich.
Speak for yourself, Liz. I love the magenta of that cosmos.
Yes.
Well, that is perfect, and the richness of that.
We've got a Hebes over there as well. Which
Just
is a
coming
good
out, isn't
planner.
it?
Yeah.
Do you try and organise the border every year so the colours succeed each other, or do you just leave it?
I do. I always like to have colour in the garden, but I like to see the seasons in the border at the same time. So I like the seed heads of the poppies.
Very elegantly put, but I was actually going to say, at the risk of sounding terribly rude, that you do like to leave things that have died in the border, and the odd living weed you don't seem to be too bothered about.
How tactful. Tactful. Well, I like time off. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to go swimming on the beach, have lunch with friends, and I went on a double-decker bus last
Did
week.
you?
Took my stepmother,
Was
which
that
was
good?
great, yes.
First time you've done it?
Yes, it is.
Despite her relaxed approach, Liz wants to make a huge change to her garden. She's fed up with a 25-foot hedge of Old County roses that lines one side of the main path. It's overcrowded, full of bindweed, and even though some of them are still in bloom, the old roses are past their best. So what do you want to do with this?
Well, Monty, I've decided I'm going to take it all out and
Really?
replant, yes. It's very prone to mildew, and it needs sorting out and thinning anyway, so I think by the time we've taken it down, we'll take it out.
So quite a big decision.
For me, enormous. But let's do it.
First, we put on some protective clothes and thick gloves. Then we attack the hedge with heavy-duty loppers. All right. I think just hack away at it, don't you?
Oh, this is a good one here.
There's no machine yet invented which does this job as well as we can do it by hand. 1, 2, 3.
How are you doing, Monty?
Hey, that's it.
Oh, daylight. Oh, it's waltz time, Monty. It's like a foxtrot.
Well, I guess no one's stood here for a while, have they?
You're telling me I can hardly
Look at all
stand. I'm
this
so
stuff.
exhausted.
What do you plan to do with this?
Well, I want to get rid of it all now because I want to replant roses.
Right. Do you know about soil sickness?
Well, I don't understand it thoroughly, no.
Well, funnily enough, nor does anybody really, but certain facts are clear. Where you've grown roses before, you cannot and you must not plant roses again in the same soil because roses give off effectively a poison,
Yeah.
which other roses and only roses or members of the rose family suffer from, and they will grow stunted and weak and even perhaps die. The only solution is to dig. If we want to replace Liz's old rose hedge with new roses, it means we've got to take out all the soil in which the old hedge was growing. That means a trench about 2 foot deep and 3 foot wide, extending the whole length of the bed. The hard digging is over, but we've run out of time, and planting will have to wait until the morning. By the time I arrive next morning, Liz is already soaking the root balls of her new roses. Overnight, the weather's changed, and a stiff breeze is now blowing. Morning, Liz.
Oh, hi, Monty.
So how do you feel this morning? Any regrets?
No, I don't know why we didn't do it years ago.
Now, these are the plants, are they?
Yeah.
Why have you chosen this?
Rosa rugosa, Alba.
Yeah.
Well, it's mildew resistant. It's compact, good hedge growing, lovely white perfume flower as opposed to pink, make a change, and good autumn colour, lovely hips, dark red foliage. What could be better than that?
It is one of my favourites. I think it's a wonderful rose, and the best hedging rose there is. The trench is ready to be backfilled with a thick layer of seaweed compost and manure, and another similar layer of fresh topsoil. I'm leaving the fresh soil quite loose, just giving it a gentle rake before planting. Now this is the bit I like, planting.
Well, it's a treat after all the work we've been doing, isn't it?
Well, I'll just cut this up
Watch out.
like that. You don't want to disturb those roots. I mean, obviously you don't put bare root plants at this time of year.
Certainly not.
Nice and deep.
Okay.
You do it just with my bare hands.
You're like the Jack Russells, they like doing that.
Get them to do
We
it.
could get them
You
doing
can
it,
use a
couldn't we?
spade if you wanted. Get it. Oh, it's fragile. Do you want to take that off for me? Okay, that's it. There we are. That's in line.
Oops.
Now we're going to top that up, so we don't have to worry about getting it too deep, although most people plant roses too shallowly. So the final height will be about that height there. To replace the old hedge, we're planting 14 vigorous Rugosa alba roses in a single row. Planting anything at the height of summer is going to be stressful, and roses are particularly susceptible to change. So, as soon as they're in, they get a really generous watering, and that's topped up with a thick mulch of compost to complete the job.
Right, Monty, just one more little job.
What is this?
Well, this is my little arch for the roses in the rose bed. I wonder if you would just position it for me so I could have a look at it, see what it looks like.
Why haven't you done it?
It's a bit heavy.
But it's little.
But
Let's
it's
have a
little.
look. Oh, it is heavy, Liz.
Oh, I know.
God! I think that's in place. Unfortunately, it's now time to make my farewells to Liz and her husband, Rod. Because I have a plane to catch, Liz.
I know you have.
And I'm not coming back. This is it.
Are you sure this is it?
I'm moving on.
Oh, no.
Who's going to do all the work when you're gone?
That's a thought. Maybe, though, have I encouraged you to be a bit more brutal and ruthless with your garden?
You have. Look at the demonstration of my
That's good.
Yeah.
And I've learned a bit, too, that one can just relax and let things happen, yeah. When Adam Hunt moved into his Wiltshire cottage 8 months ago, it needed quite a lot of work, and so did the garden. He works as an arts and environment officer for the local council and is passionately interested in organic gardening.
Loads of reasons I like gardening. I like eating food that I know where it's come from, what's been done to it, that hasn't travelled halfway around the globe. I like relaxing at the weekend in the garden. I like the wildlife associated with it. I like growing the herbs. Yeah, it's just really important. It's the only little part of the world where I can really make a difference.
At present, Adam's long, narrow garden is a bit of a hodgepodge of different areas of interest. Some still quite wild, others well developed. At the far end, Adam has already made an area for vegetables, which is overflowing with produce. The centre of the garden is overgrown with trees, and as an experiment, he's trying to grow crops almost underneath them. He wants to be as self-sufficient as possible, so he's also several pens for chickens and ducks, and a greenhouse full of tomatoes.
You've even got peas growing up with your sweet peas.
Yeah, they go nicely together.
Yeah, they do.
Carol Klein shares Adam's enthusiasm for organic gardening, but she'd like to help him impose a little order on the chaos, especially the overgrown area immediately behind the cottage.
Yeah, this is the patio underneath all the weeds.
Oh, right. It's a potential patio.
Yeah.
And what do you think you're going to do with it?
Well, we'd like to sort of take these paving slabs up here. I'll put a herb bed somewhere.
And you've got loads of pots full of herbs here. Where did these come from?
These from the old garden.
Right.
They're looking a bit poorly, actually. I keep trying to water them, but
They've survived, though, haven't they?
they just about survive.
Shall we move some and just have a look what's underneath?
Yeah.
And see what we can do with it. The terrace is overgrown with weeds, which have colonised the cracks between the paving stones. The plan is to clear the area, get rid of the weeds, and then lift some of the paving slabs to make room for Adam's herbs. Oh, it's really heavy, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
But it allows us to see what's in store. I think we just ought to rip as much of this out with our bare hands as we can.
Yep.
Because there's quite a lot of it, and some of it's really long.
Right.
I think it's just an annual grass, you know, but it's seeded very successfully into those cracks. Look, you can even see some of the seed.
Right. This one looks like couch grass, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Ready?
All right. Come on, let's weave it together.
Right.
Let's see if this works.
God,
You ready?
Yeah. You're going to get at the bottom.
1, 2, 3. Way! It is. It does work.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, it is. I've burnt stuff like this sometimes, you know.
Have you?
Yeah, because it destroys the top growth and it also gets rid of all the weed seeds as well. If we burn these tops now that we've exposed the roots, that really should be enough to
You think so?
kill it. Yeah. As an organic gardener, Adam doesn't want to use poisonous weed killers. Although burning the weeds won't be a permanent solution, it's an environmentally friendly way of getting rid of the worst of them. We don't want to upset the neighbours by setting fire to their trellis, so we're protecting it with old corrugated iron.
That's great.
I think it's fantastic and it's so level. I think it's a real shame if we've got to start lifting up loads of these flags, don't you, and making beds. Couldn't we just lift occasional ones and plant the herbs in that?
OK, let's give it a go.
But first of all, can we go with that burner? Yeah,
The
scorched
flamethrower.
earth policy.
Great, let's go for it.
When using a propane-powered flame gun like this, it's important to follow all the instructions, wear the right safety equipment, and then have some fun. While I finish off the incineration, Adam's selecting slabs to take out to make way for our checkerboard herb garden. The soil under the slabs has compacted over the years, so we're giving it a good dig over before we start planting.
Why don't we use this broken pot in one of them? Eh?
Yeah. What would that look like in it?
Let's put it in. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe we could put a bit of chamomile or something around there.
Great, I'll get the chamomile.
This creeping chamomile will fill up the corners around the pot. Most Mediterranean herbs are at home in a poor soil, so the sandy earth beneath the slabs is ideal.
Right, what do you think about putting tansy at the back here?
Oh yeah, because it's going to... I think it's real hedgerow kind of plant, don't you?
Yeah.
How long have you been interested in herbs? Because I always think herbs are, you know, sort of womanly thing. I mean, they're all to do... well, they're all to do with witchcraft, aren't they? And, you know...
Well, it's... Yeah, I mean, I've been interested in herbs since I was a teenager. And I read this book about a white witch and the herbs she used.
Yeah?
And got so into herbs, my mum gave me a herb garden. She, gave me a little patch in the garden that I could grow herbs in.
Yeah.
And I've grown them ever since.
Oh.
Yeah, I love them.
Good for you. And you've got the ideal place to grow them too, haven't you?
It's going to be great, isn't it? It's already looking good.
Oh. You're right, little old. I mean, it'll creep right out across there. What's the matter?
Just got.
Oh, it's called lavender speaker too. It's spiked you. Adam's always been interested in medicinal herbs like this myrtle, which is a powerful antiseptic. By this time it's almost dark, but we've managed to make quite a difference. I think we made a really good start, don't you?
I'm over the moon with it.
Yeah.
Great.
So by the next time I come, you'll have done that right the way across there, won't you?
Yep, I'll have done next. Well, all the houses down here too.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Now, I know a lot of you rose growers get very upset about black spot, but it isn't a disaster, although there are some things you can do. First of all, if you don't recognise black spot, it's these little brown patches that then grow and meet, and then the leaf can turn yellow and drop off. And in really bad cases, the whole plant can defoliate. But you can help it by looking after the plant itself. So collect up all these leaves, cut them off if they're really bad, and burn them. Rake around the plant and burn any leaves or bits of bark. Prune it so there are no rubbing or crossing branches, because those cause lesions and the fungus overwinters in that. And you can try spraying it with water once a week, a good drench for about 4 hours, and that washes the fungus off. The other fungal infection at this time of year is powdery mildew, which looks like this. is always an indication that the plant is too dry. So water it thoroughly at the roots, and then in the winter, prune back the canopy so you don't get this umbrella effect, and therefore the water won't stay on the leaves, which the fungus loves, and it will go down and water the base of the plant. But again, don't worry too much. It isn't going to kill the rose. At this time of year, the casual visitor might find it difficult to imagine just how cold and windswept the Cotswolds can be in winter. But people with gardens around here know how important it is to try and shelter their plants from the worst of that winter weather. The old stone walls surrounding Dilys Wilson's garden provide shelter from the wind, privacy, and the framework for a formal design. Over the past few weeks, Anne-Marie Powell has been helping her to make a new garden with a succession of rooms to make the most of the long, narrow site. So far, they've built a new arbour and trellis, rebuilt a dry stone wall for one of the flower beds, and installed a large decorative urn for her new potager. Since then, Dilys has been busy working on her own. Anne-Marie is quick to notice everything that's changed.
So there's no holding you back at all, is there?
Well, there's no holding the pond plants back, that's for sure.
They're rammed.
Well, my parents have a pond that's 4 times the size of this.
Right.
So my father's been desperate for me to get this pond sorted out.
We've certainly been very generous, hasn't
Well,
he, actually?
a lot of these won't stay here. It's really just to get it established this year. So this bog bean, which is a real monster and
yeah,
will
it is.
take over. I mean, look how big it is.
Well, the thing is that you can enjoy it for a year and then just chuck them out, can't you, actually? Give them
Exactly.
away to someone else. It's good, though, because you've got all your oxygenators and everything in that you need, haven't you? So.
And look also what my father's given me. He's given me bloody duckweed.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? When you do get plants from people, you actually get all of the things that they've got in their garden too, as well.
Yeah.
Although I don't think that's so bad for ponds. I mean, it does actually keep quite a lot of shade on the pond, doesn't it, as well?
You
Because
can
they
keep
can
on
get
top of it. It's
yeah.
not the end of the world.
Absolutely. I think it's quite
So-
pretty, actually.
So-
So this is all sorted. So
It
what
is
are we
pretty
gonna
much.
do?
We're going to play around with some sinks today because I thought I'd make some sinks into troughs.
Love to.
Great.
Where are they?
They're down here. Right, let's go and get some sinks.
Dilys has salvaged some old stoneware sinks which she wants to disguise as stone troughs using a mixture called hypertufa.
So let you know.
After 3. 1, 2, 3. Is this where it's going?
Yes.
There. So we're going to do some hypertufering, make it look like it's from stone.
Yeah. And it really works. My parents did some about 10, 15 years ago, and you'd think they were the real McCoy. They look really good, covered in lichen and moss and what have you. Done. OK, brilliant.
While Dilys gives the sink a thorough wash, I start to prepare the hypertufa mixture. Once the sink is dry, Dilys paints it with PVA to make the shiny surface nice and sticky. The hypertufa technique was pioneered by the late Jeff Hamilton. To make the mixture, I'm combining 1 part sharp sand, 1 part cement, and 1 to 2 parts of peat or coir compost. With all the dry ingredients in the barrow, we're adding just enough water to make a spreadable paste. When the PVA feels tacky, the hypertufa mix is gently patted onto the sides and over the rim of the sink.
So I think this is kind of...
Once the hypertufa has completely dried out, it looks remarkably like stone.
What do you make of it?
Well, it still looks a bit like a sink, but I think when it's got its second coat on, I think it'll look better.
Yeah.
So
It'll dry out as well to a lighter shade, I would say.
Yeah.
It looks like a Flintstone sink, doesn't it? It's prehistoric.
Yeah.
You know, you need to put something on it to attract lichen and mosses and things, don't you?
I thought I'd put some yoghurt on, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I heard, actually, that beer does the trick too.
Oh, really? But rather than drinking it?
Yeah, I know. That's the problem, isn't it?
Now we're off to the front door to pick up the strange-looking objects which have been delivered. They are well-wrapped Espalier fruit trees, which Dilys wants to grow against her walls. Espaliers are trees meticulously pruned and trained to grow flat against a wall or fence. They're designed for growing fruit in confined spaces.
Got it?
Yep. This is going right to the very end.
It's a cherry, isn't it?
It's a cherry, so
Nice and warm.
it needs to be baked.
The Stella cherry needs a lot of sun, so it's going on the hottest south-facing wall.
So let's leave it wrapped for the moment until it gets in its hole.
The conference pair and Victoria Plum should do well basking in the afternoon sun of Dillis's west-facing wall. The colder east-facing boundary will be home for her two hardier apple trees, James Grieve and Sunset.
Plant that one before it falls over.
Right, that's
Good, aren't
philosophy.
they? They look great.
Well, the nice thing is, I mean, apart from the fact they're going to give you fruit, which is really healthy, they'll give you flowers in the spring, they're going to give you a nice sort of skeleton structure to show in the winter. But the other thing is, as they grow up taller, they'll also give me a bit of privacy from my neighbour.
Absolutely.
So lots of jobs in one fell swoop.
Let's get these
Let's
gorgeous
going.
apples in then. I'll grab you a spade.
You are?
Here you go.
We're digging a hole centred 12 inches away from the wall, big enough to contain the root ball, and a generous dollop of compost, along with some good old fish blood and bone.
Shall I just lift this in?
Yep. Oh, it's about ready to get planted, isn't it?
Yep. Right, let's make sure it's straight. That's important.
Is that about straight?
Blooming good, that. Yeah. OK, I'll backfill it for you. Do you want to do a little war dance on it?
Oh, yes, please. It's quite proud of the wall, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot closer to the wall.
Well, that's good. You're not in the rain shadow. Got lots of air for it to go around, so you won't be getting pests and diseases all over the place. I'll pass you the hose, because this needs a good old drink.
Right. Thank you, Mistress Powell.
Later, Dillis plans to build a wire frame to train the lateral branches along as they grow. And she'll keep pruning to ensure that the tree maintains its geometric shape.
Ta-da! Right.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good.
Now, as tempting as it is to chop that off to make a new tier,
I think another tier needs to go here, don't
I
you?
think we should leave it there. We don't want to start chopping it and pruning it at the wrong time of year.
Should be done in the winter, really, shouldn't
Yeah.
it?
And then the following autumn, you can start getting fruity.
Oh, Mrs.
Well, that's it for this week. We'll be back the same time next week when Anne-Marie will be seeing Dillis, Carol will be revisiting Adam Hunt, and I'm going to revisit one of last year's Real Gardeners, Joanna Crane. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Welcome to Real Gardens. Now, it's very important with just a few weeks of summer left to get out and enjoy the garden. Have a look around and relish it. Trouble is, if you're a gardener, you start to look and then you see something and you've got to get on with it. And certainly our Real Gardeners this week are as busy as ever. There's something for everyone in this week's programme. I'm pruning a wisteria in Leicestershire. Anne-Marie is adorning a patio wall in the Cotswolds. And Carol Klein is sowing winter vegetables in Wiltshire. This large and beautiful Leicestershire garden belongs to Joanna Crane and her husband John. Joanna is one of those gardeners who aren't afraid of change. And last year I came here many times throughout the season and helped her with a number of big projects, which are well worth following up. The jobs included planting an asparagus bed in the vegetable garden, creating a turf maze, and making a round window in the hedge. The last job I did with them was to prune the huge climbing rose at the front of the house. So this one here,
Yes.
I think we could take right back down there. Quickly before you change your mind. Okay. Although Joanna was hesitant to start with, I tried to persuade her that drastic pruning was the best way to encourage new flowering shoots. The final result was a bald framework of bare stems, which I think Joanna found alarming. Almost a year later, and we're straight back into the great pruning debate.
This is looking good. How are you? Nice to see you.
Very well, thank you.
This is looking fine, isn't it?
Oh, it's more than fine. I have to say, we're delighted with what happened.
I mean, I do remember the last thing we did was just hack this back, wasn't it?
It was very severe, yes, but it's recovered remarkably
and you
well.
complained like mad, I remember.
Yeah, but then you need a bit of restraint generally, don't you? No, seriously, it's done terribly well. And it's broken from places that I just wouldn't have thought it was possible.
Oh, that's an encouragement. That's
Yeah,
good.
It's really good.
What about the rest of the garden?
Oh, that's good too, yes. Right. Successes and failures.
Yeah. And
The layout of Joanna's garden is an arrangement of distinct rooms, each with its own theme. Behind the house is a box parterre with echoes of the Italian Renaissance. On the other side of the main lawn is a flower garden, famous in the family for its scent, not because the flowers are highly perfumed, but because it lies on the site of a large and very smelly septic tank.
So this, if I remember, is the scented garden.
Well, it was last year, but it isn't anymore.
Well, I've got a cold, so I can't smell anything
No,
anyway.
nothing to do with that. We've recovered the septic tank.
Oh, that's a big job.
It was yes, it was enormous. We had to dig everything out, and I put it all in the vegetable garden for about 3 months, and then put it all back again afterwards.
I really like the way you've got that helenium. Is that Moorheim Beauty?
Yes, it is, yeah.
You've got that russety orange connecting to the pink of the sweet pea. And then the lupins, which look incredibly healthy and good.
Yes, I'm really pleased with those. I mean, it must be a second flowering, because I have cut them back a few times, but they're really looking very nice, aren't they?
Extraordinary for this time of year. But then just poking out that Niphophia with the orange of the Moorheim Beauty again and the colour of the lupin, and the whole thing works. And yet, any of those two colours shouldn't really work together.
No.
Brilliant.
Some new features, like the turf maze, now look as though they've been here forever. The avenue of pear trees has been growing for at least 8 years. And over in the hedge, another of last year's projects is already beginning to look like part of the scenery.
Well, I can see you still got the window. You kept that.
That's growing quite well, isn't it, around it? I'm pleased with it. Mm.
The way these innovations mature is very satisfying. And the next time I come here, we'll be undertaking some more new projects. But for the moment, Joanna has something she wants me to see.
Right, what do you want to show me?
The wisteria. I thought it was time to put you to a bit of work.
I thought that word job or work might come into it.
Yeah, you'd be disappointed otherwise. The wisteria needs reshaping over there. It's got a bit tied up, and it needs its annual prune.
Annual prune? I thought that one was supposed to prune wisteria twice a year, once now and once in January.
Yeah, one does, but I don't. I'm afraid I only do it now.
If it works, if it flowers okay.
Well, it seems to. I mean, it's had masses of flowers on it. It's got a few extra ones now, but it has flowered very, very well and always does, so it seems to be okay.
Fine. So give me a ladder and I'll start cutting.
Good.
Okay.
Wisterias are extremely vigorous. And unless they're kept in check, they tend to make masses of untidy new growth at the expense of the flowers. So 2 prunings a year is the conventional advice. In late summer, you're supposed to cut back new stems to 5 leaves, so slowing down the growth and stimulating the development of flower buds for next year.
Now, if I just take that back 6 inches from the join there, happy with that?
Yeah.
That'll be fine. And this one, I just cut there. As I understand it, one prunes back to 6 inches, which concentrates growth in some buds, and then in January, whenever, cut back to a couple or even at the most 3 nice juicy buds.
Well, basically, yeah, fat buds, which will be flower buds.
Right.
Well, this window's beginning to clear. We'll soon be able to see out of it again. It had grown right through the window, actually, and gone halfway across the bedroom.
It's rather nice, that.
Yeah, triffid-like.
Now, what about this, Johnny? I'll trace this back.
I still think we should be a bit more radical, but true to form, Joanna is more cautious. She also wants to increase the spread of the wisteria by leaving some of the new growth unpruned. While I finish off the pruning, Joanna trains in some new young stems, tying them into a wire framework so that they can cover more of the old bricks.
Now, are you happy?
Yeah, I think that's very good. It's done the job. It's cleared the windows.
Yeah, I mean, it's modest, but it's good. Now, will you have another go in January?
Let's wait and see.
Wait 6 months.
See what the weather's like.
All right.
Yeah.
Behind this terraced cottage in a Wiltshire village is a long, narrow strip of land which is gradually being transformed from a neglected backyard plot into a varied and wildlife-friendly garden. Adam Hunt has lived here for just 8 months. He's very aware of environmental issues, grows his own organic produce, and wherever possible he's used recycled materials, building raised beds from salvaged wood, and making use of the local pub's empties to edge his borders. In the past week, Adam has been tidying up his vegetable patch at the bottom of the garden. He's cleared the overgrown paths and put a membrane down to stop the weeds growing back. This is just the kind of garden that Carol Klein likes, and she's going to help him with the job, recycling some of his old roofing tiles to make the paths.
You're not making cement, are you?
This is part of the experiment.
Oh, right.
Around the raised beds in the
Yeah.
back, we've dug out the path,
Yeah.
put some underlay down,
Right.
and we're intending to lay these tiles on it.
Right, you smash them to smithereens,
That's
haven't you?
it, and then you put them in here because we've got sharp edges on the tiles, and we
Right.
thought if you put them in the cement mixer first, it sort of rounds off the edges.
So they look better and they don't cut your boots to shreds.
That's right.
No, what
Or
a
your
good
feet
idea.
if you're in bare feet.
Oh yeah, because you always do barefoot gardening, don't you? All
So
right.
you're going to give us a hand then?
Yeah. I suppose you could use these just to crop flower pots, couldn't you? But you need a hell of a lot of flower pots.
Right, that's enough.
That's as much as I can lift, I reckon. Right.
I'm afraid we've got to wear these goggles again.
Oh, good. It's getting to be a bit of a habit, isn't it? So, good job.
I just like getting you to wear goggles, you see.
Yeah.
Ready?
You don't look so bad yourself.
Here we go.
Adam got the cement mixer for £20 a week from a hire shop. It's about the noisiest way of making a path surface that I've ever come across, but a good churning in the mixer really does take the edge off the broken tiles. Just look. I think it's really worked.
They look right, look at that one.
Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they? Really
Come up
soft.
well.
Fantastic.
Yep,
Good enough for your path?
I reckon.
Right. Adam wants an all-weather surface for the paths, and this couldn't be simpler. After unloading the newly smooth tiles, we're just raking them over and then tamping them down with a sledgehammer. Now we've got something to walk on, we can harvest some of the vegetables.
Looks all right, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's reasonably easy to walk on too.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I'm really pleased with it.
Matches your carrots perfectly too.
Won't be able to find them if you drop them.
Right, what are we doing then?
Right, it's time to pull the shallots out because I want to get some more stuff into here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I have a go?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's take one out.
There you go.
Onions and shallots are usually harvested in August. If they're left in the ground too long, they'll start growing again, and then they won't keep. Look at that. What are you going to do about that comfrey?
It's a problem, yeah. When we started on this bed, the whole area was full of comfrey. And it's really difficult to get rid of it. As you know, the roots go really deep.
Yeah, that's its great benefit, isn't it? Because it roots so deeply, it brings up all these marvellous trace elements and minerals.
And we've got a comfrey bed over there. We make liquid manure with it, and we also...
Shove it on your compost heap?
That's it, yeah.
Most people do, because it's an accelerator, isn't it?
But if you just leave the slightest bit of the root in,
Yeah.
it comes up like this, and I think it's affected this shallot crop, really, because
It's overshadowed them a bit, hasn't it?
has a bit. So I've been itching to get this out.
Right, let's have a go at this lot then.
OK, I'll go and have a go at the onions.
I think I need a big fork to tackle this comfrey, don't I? Comfrey is an extremely vigorous native plant. It can be made into liquid fertiliser or compost, but in the wrong place it's a real nuisance, as its roots can grow as deep as 3 metres.
Wow.
That's what you call it, that root.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I think I got it all. Adam's onions could stay in the ground a little longer, but he wants them out so that he can clear the bed for some overwintering crops. The onions need to be dried out in a light and airy space, and the top of Adam's chicken run is perfect. Once thoroughly dried, they can be strung together or stored in nets, and they should last until next spring.
Great.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, looks good.
It's a pretty perfect seed bed.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Right, I've got some seeds.
Oh, great. What have you got?
I've got cabbage for the spring, because you
Right.
don't have a lot of veg around in March and April and May.
OK, so we'll be putting those in and then you'll be transplanting them later.
Yeah, and I've also got Mitsuna, which is a Japanese green.
Right.
It's oriental greens, it's sort of mustardy flavour, and you can put it in salads.
And that you can sow and just crop as it is. You
That's
don't have
it. It's what they call cut and come again, so you keep...
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know, but you keep cutting.
it, and it
And
keeps
coming
coming
again.
Right, fantastic.
Okay.
Let's get cracking then. Let's have the cabbage in here.
Okay.
You just need a little furrow, really, sort of 1/2 inch deep. When the cabbage plants are 4 or 5 inches high, Adam will transplant them to the back of the bed, where they'll have room to grow. Right, and we'll just sow them really quite thinly along here, because I bet most of them will come up. Yeah. And how much mitsune are you going to have?
Well, I think we can go for 2 lines, really, because they're not that wide, are they?
No, not only that. I mean, you're just going to be cutting it all the time. It's not like you've got to transplant it. They're good, these winter salad things. People are growing them much more now, because that's the time when veg are really expensive in the shops.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be able to get a salad in the winter or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it? You can just nip out here and
there you go.
Off you go. Right. Once they're big enough to handle, Adam will thin the plants to about 6 inches apart. Nothing could be simpler, really, could it, then?
Do you press it down when you've put it in or not?
Well, you can just tamp it down, but it'll do just with your hand. All we need now is a bit of water, and Adam will be happily harvesting well into next year. Well done.
Right, it's time for a break, but we'll be back soon when Anne-Marie Powell is going to be making the best of a small space in the Cotswolds. Welcome back. Now, it doesn't matter how much rain we get. The chances are, if your garden's anything like mine, the ground is going to be dry and you need to do some watering. You can use a sprinkler like this, but only if you leave it on for a long time, because the important thing is to soak it where it matters, which is down at the roots. And just a little bit of sprinkling will just get the leaves wet and that evaporates off. And a tip is to sink a pot or a pipe, and it can be anything, it can be an old lemonade bottle with the bottom cut off, by the roots when you plant it. And then you do your watering directly into this. And that takes the water down to where it matters. And it also works on the roots. Because you're putting your water always down into the ground, the roots tend to go deeper. So if you do go away, or if you water very, very lightly, they don't then come up to the surface, which of course is the first place that dries out and the plant will suffer. Talking about going away, get all your plants, if you're going on a holiday, from wherever they are in the garden, and gather them together in a shady place. Keep them really tight, because that will stop them evaporating, and then give them all one big soak just before you go, and with any luck that should see them through till you get back. Now we're off to join Anne-Marie in the Cotswolds, where she's helping to convert a tiny little courtyard into something a bit more exotic.
Over the past 4 weeks, this Cotswold garden has been totally transformed from a bare plot to a series of impeccably landscaped outdoor rooms. The owner, Dilys Wilson, has done most of the work herself, but Anne-Marie Powell has helped her with technical advice and plenty of muscle power. The last job they did together was to plant some new Espalier fruit trees.
I haven't done much over the last few days, but...
The plants have, though, haven't they?
Haven't they just? We've had so much rain and then warmth that everything's just gone ballistic.
And what about the trees as well?
Well, they actually looked very sorry for themselves having been wrapped up for a few days.
They don't now.
No, they've perked up, and I found some fruit. Look, I've got a plum.
So what are we going to do today, then?
Well, I thought, actually, we'd concentrate now on the courtyard, because at the moment it's rather boring. So I've got a few ideas, and I thought it'd be much nicer to make it a place that you don't just walk through to get to the garden, but you actually linger and go, oh, that's nice, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing I want to do is actually hit that wall, which I think looks bloody horrible.
Well, I don't think it is, actually. I think it's quite nice with all those layers of paint and things. But I do know what you mean. I mean, it's like it's a corridor almost, isn't it?
Well, it's very small and it's quite dark as well. So I thought, well, let's use that and make it a really interesting, intimate place.
I think that's a good idea. But the first thing we need to do is get rid of some of this junk, don't we?
Yeah.
Clean it out. But let's lose these chairs first.
Dilys hopes to transform her small L-shaped courtyard into a cosy space for relaxing and entertaining.
Oh, look at all this room.
Brilliant, isn't it? God,
space.
So much bigger.
It is.
Maybe I should change my mind. Maybe I should go for the minimalist look. Just flag it and then put big boulders.
That suits me, but you strike me as a woman who likes clutter.
Yeah, and shopping.
Right.
Shall we go shopping?
Yeah.
Dilys wants to buy some garden ornaments that will hang on the wall rather than cluttering up the patio.
So this is this great shop. Come and have a look at this place.
Gorgeous.
It's like Aladdin's cave. It's full of the most magical, interesting things from Asia.
Stacked as well, isn't it?
She has had her eye on an exotic antique which she thinks will do the job.
What do you think about this from a courtyard?
A bit full on.
Well, it's just as well, because actually what I really want you to see is this. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Is it Indian?
No, it's Persian. It's 18th century, actually.
Really?
So what I thought would be lovely, I don't know what you think, would be to make this as a focal point in the courtyard on that very sort of crappy wall and put the mirror behind so it reflects the garden, so it looks like there's another garden going through.
It'd make more space in there and reflect light back as well, the mirror.
Light back.
Yeah, sounds like a nightmare of a job.
I don't know how the hell we're going to do it. I need you for this, big time.
So let's get your money out.
Right, OK then.
Now it's on to the reclamation yard to pick up an ancient door that Dilys has rooted out. We finally get the door and window frame back to base. But now comes the difficult bit.
So now you've got these two doors. What do you feel like doing with them?
Somehow fix them to the wall. And then my initial thought is to put trellis all the way around it as well. Possibly put lattice or something over the mirror again. That's kind of my thought.
For me, first impressions, that does seem a bit like overkill. I mean, they're both very beautiful in their own right, and all of this different sort of stuff that you want to put all around it, I think it's just going to detract from that door.
Too much.
Yeah, and they're going to be different materials, all sort of jarring with each other, and, you know, I think just keep it like that, and you can always build on it at a later date, can't you?
Yeah.
But my first real worry is basically how we're going to fix it. Do you know what kind of subsoil or soil is under here?
Oh, yeah, it's no soil, no. This is rock.
Because we can't rely on the crumbly 200-year-old wall to support Dilys's heavy window, we're digging holes big enough to take 2 freestanding 4x4 posts.
It's the right pig of a job, isn't it?
So how deep do you think this hole needs to be?
As much as it pains me to say, it's going to have to be at least 2 foot.
Oh, my
Preferably
God.
a bit more, really.
The pneumatic drill does a great job on the rock, but once it's broken up, we need every tool we can lay our hands on.
You should always make the tools do the work. I know it's tempting to kind of put your back in, but that way you just break your back.
This tool, called a rabbiter, does a great job of breaking up the bottom layer of hard clay.
God, that's getting it.
When the first hole is finally deep enough, we're ready to prepare some post mix. We're using a special quick-drying concrete to set the posts firmly in place. It's important to tamp down the concrete to knock out any air holes from the mix.
That's the hell of that hole. Let's do another one. No, I think we're done.
Oh, brill. Do you know, I never want to dig another bloody hole ever again.
I'm going to move it this way.
We've established that the posts are in the right position for the window frame, and once the new wood has been stained, it should look fine. Now we can start fixing in Dilys's antique door. In this case, there's already a concrete base, so we're using flat-bottom metal post holders and securing them to the concrete. This process of using a powerful adhesive to secure bolts to concrete is known as chemical bolting.
I tell you what, I am so pleased with this chemical bolt system.
It's amazing. It said on the packet like 50 minutes to 2 hours, and it is dried in about half an hour. It's incredible.
Rock solid. Okay.
Yep.
Right. Oh, last burst of energy.
Oh, yes, push, 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 push. Oh. Right, that's it. Whoop. Whoops. Whoop.
And with this, with paint and some plants to soften it, it'll look great.
Yeah.
Now the old door is safely fixed in, we're going to try out the mirror in the window frame. We can't fix it into its final position until the cement is dry, so we'll have to imagine what the frame will look like when it's properly hung.
And once you get things like these climbers in here as well, and look at the colour of this Virginia creeper against the teak, it just looks gorgeous, doesn't it? And this honeysuckle is going to be perfectly all right here, semi-shade, and it smells lovely.
Doesn't it smell?
It's Linistra serratina. It's just really, really beautifully scented.
Almost got a vanilla-y scent to it.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you very much. I could not have done this without you. That's for true. But never again.
Welcome to our last in this series of Real Gardens. Now, of course, the summer isn't over. In fact, September seems to me one of the most fascinating months in the gardening calendar because all that work you did earlier in the year is coming to fruition. And certainly our Real Gardeners this week are all as busy as ever. I'm with Joanna Crane, who's got a real dilemma on her hands. I do love cutting these down, but I don't want to cut this particularly because it seems such a shame.
I know.
Adam Hunt and Carol Klein take their love of flowers to the extreme. And Dilys Wilson and Anne-Marie Powell are lighting up the Cotswolds. When Joanna and her husband John moved to this 17th century farmhouse in Leicestershire 13 years ago, they wanted their garden to reflect the style of the period. Over the years, they've succeeded in balancing the formal with the romantic. Their borders are bursting with exuberant perennials, and the neatly clipped hedges echo the classical designs of the Renaissance. En route to the main task of the day, Joanna and I can't help being distracted by this herbaceous border.
Now, this was the very first place I remember seeing when we came here 18 months ago.
Yeah, tulips and
Yeah,
spring bulbs
that's right.
and
Totally
rain.
different. Well, it wasn't.
Yes.
It was wet. Totally different now. And boy, it's changed over the seasons of the year.
I mean, it's suffering a little with the drought, I think, now. It's looking quite dry. But there are still things that I do like in it.
Well, there are nice bits to it, aren't there? I mean, I really like the way that you've got that Crocosmia, the orange of that, picks up with the rather more sort of burgundy colour of the Hemerocallis, and then the Phacelia, which, to be honest, I don't know how you describe that colour, but it works, doesn't it?
Yes, it has a very metallic sort of hue to it, doesn't it? And I love it against the tree peony behind the foliage there. But I think in principle I've probably gone off mixed shrub borders.
So what's the solution? You're going to change it?
It hasn't been past the planning committee yet, but it will do, yeah.
While Joanna loves to constantly improve features like this in her garden, the neat parterre of box hedges to the side of the house hasn't needed any alteration until now. For some time, it's been giving her cause for concern.
Do you remember poking your hands in there last year and saying, this looks a bit mangy?
Yes.
Something polite like that, anyway. Well, you were quite right, and it was very mangy, and I've since done some research and had tests done on it and discovered we have a fairly serious problem.
Do you have this box blight that's been going around?
Cylindrocladium, yes. Basically, inside it goes all sort of grey and mangy and the leaves drop off, so it's defoliation.
This fungus attacks the foliage. Patches of grey discoloration are visible on the underside of the leaves. Infected leaves eventually turn brown and fall off, causing the plant to weaken and sometimes die.
That doesn't look good. I tell you what, just feeling that, it feels rather sort of thin
It's lost
and
its
weak.
sort of bounce, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you used to be able to put a cup of tea on it with confidence.
You wouldn't want to do that now.
No.
OK, so that's catastrophic news. What can we do about it?
It seems that there's very little known about it, but little you can do. You can't use a fungicide on it. There's nothing available that seems to work. Some people are taking very drastic action and just digging every bit of box out and burning the lot, or cutting it back and see whether it can grow up again without the blight and keep it far looser and more airy.
So you're suggesting cutting this down, I mean almost coppicing it.
Yeah, you like
Right
coppicing,
down.
don't you?
Well, I mean,
it's one of your favourite things.
I do love cutting things down, but I don't want to cut this particularly because it seems
No.
such a shame.
I know, it's taken 13 years to grow it.
13 years and we just knock it back in a day. Boy, that's a bit radical.
I mean, I have been through this so much over the last 8 months, and it seems to me that's the only possible option, but it'll look ghastly.
Now that the difficult decision of hard pruning the whole box parterre has been made, it's time to put emotions aside and get on with the job. OK, let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy
What, do you think centre outwards?
Yeah, if I work that way and just get in there and anyway, I mean, it's not...
Yeah. Actually, you know, once we've got started, it doesn't feel anything like as bad. I think
that's always the way,
talk about it now without feeling awful.
But do you know where this fungus started from?
Little seems to be known. Apparently they've also got it in America, but in America it's not such a problem because they sort of pluck their box rather than cut it so tightly, and so it allows the air to get in.
So maybe the answer is to pluck it?
Yeah, if I could learn whatever this technique is.
What does it mean, plucking
box? I've no idea. But I suppose it just sort of means that it's looser rather than always having been cut very densely.
The origins of the fungus are still unclear, but in recent years it's been found on plants from box-producing countries like Holland, Italy and France, and could have been brought into the UK by imported nursery plants. I've cut mine a bit lower than yours,
I have to say, I think that's actually better.
What's going to happen is if that does regrow, which it will, you're still going to have a dense, twiggy mass.
Yeah.
And I think initially, anyway, it wants to be as open as possible, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right, yeah. Yes, well, I'll go in a bit further, I think.
Yeah. And it looks absolutely terrible.
It looks dreadful. It looks simply awful, and it's only one bed.
Look, here comes the rain.
Oh.
I suppose it's just simple, isn't it? It's change, drastic change.
There we are.
There we are, Joanna. I mean, it's...
Stumpy.
Now, how obsessive do you think we need to be about tidying this stuff up?
Not exactly obsessive, but we've got to clear it up as best we possibly can, haven't we? Because otherwise it's just going to spread everywhere in the rest of the garden.
So potentially every leaf
I just can't even think about
carries the fungus.
Yeah.
So if it lands, one leaf lands anywhere, potentially that's enough to spread it.
I suppose it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. And it's a bit windy.
Which is a horrific thought, isn't it?
The fungus can be carried from plant to plant by wind, insects and even water. It's essential, therefore, to remove and destroy all infected cuttings, as this will prevent the disease from spreading to other box hedges in Joanna's garden. Joanna's husband John is back from work just in time to assess the damage.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
That doesn't look bad at all. I think that looks surprisingly...
Better than we thought.
Yes.
Well, the mood here has gone from sort of depressed trepidation to jubilation almost. Well, I'm glad you're pleased.
I am. I think it's really good. But look at this young growth down here.
Yeah.
It doesn't look too affected. This is really encouraging. I think we might not have seen the last of our hedge.
So we went into that with a lot of really serious anxiety. You particularly, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I have to admit it was pretty traumatic, actually. It was horrible.
Fundamental part of our garden. It was one of the first things we did, was put that in.
Well, I'm going to come back next year and see what's happened there.
I predict there won't be the same layout. There'll be something far more interesting.
This Wiltshire cottage and garden's a far cry from the formal setting of Joanna's. Adam Hunt moved here 8 months ago, and he's passionate about nature and doesn't want to tame it. He and his girlfriend Heather let their vegetables and fruit grow freely alongside the herbs and flowers. Over the last few weeks, Carol Klein has been helping them with new ideas, doing a demolition job on the weeds and debris in the terrace area just behind the house. They've cleared it to make way for a herb garden and a new bed for medicinal plants. But Adam and Heather don't want to get rid of everything they've inherited here.
It's a really beautiful garden anyway. There's a lot of trees here. It's quite established, and so we're working with that rather than chopping it all down and starting again.
Bearing this in mind, Adam is experimenting with a method of gardening known as permaculture. A range of perennial plants that can all be used for food grow together to create as natural a system as possible. To make a start, Adam has prepared the old wall by the terrace, and Carol's expertise makes her the right person to advise on which plants will flourish.
This looks a whole lot better than it did last time I saw it. That torrential rain.
I know. They've all perked up a bit, haven't they?
Brilliant! And what we're going to do here? What about this bank?
Initially, I thought about taking it away. I mean, that was going to be a couple of skip loads and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it would, because it's an old wall, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
it is.
Full of sort of stone and brick.
The idea now, rather than take it away, work with it,
Yep, right.
put in a food and wildlife hedgerow.
Right.
So we've got all these plants down here are all sort of edible plants.
Yeah, you can eat everything in there.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
And hopefully the wildlife will like it as well.
Shall we go for climbing plants first then? What about that?
Yeah.
Golden hop.
Yeah, we've got a golden hop. We've also got this Oregon blackberry.
Right, that's the thornless one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thornless one.
OK.
So take that and I'll take the vine.
It's a bit big for you, that, Adam, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Right, where do you want them, do you think?
The golden hop up the end.
As far along as this?
That's fine, yeah.
Shall I start digging a hole?
Yeah, I'll get the compost.
This is rough old stuff up here. The old wall is chock full of stones, so we're making planting pockets by digging holes and filling them with Adam's home-brewed compost. Hops love stony ground, you know.
That's just as well.
What are you going to use your hop for?
It can be used medicinally. People put it in pillows.
Yeah,
give you
it's
a good...
supposed to be an insomnia cure, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Gives you sweet dreams as well.
And this is a thing that just scrambles anyway itself. It'll just grow through any host it can find.
Right.
The idea of growing plants on different layers is the basis of permaculture. As the hop scrambles high up the wall, it'll leave plenty of space below to grow other plants in the same area. Next, Adam's planting a thornless variety of the common blackberry or bramble, which will grow to different height to the hop.
Pretty, isn't it?
Very decorative, but it is edible.
Good.
It's going to be good. You'll still have to beat the birds to it as well.
You reckon?
I mean, I love ordinary brambles. I know people are always fighting a fight with them.
Yeah.
And they're very unpopular plants, but everybody loves eating them.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I love them. I love them.
Both human beings and, you know, all these wild creatures.
Yeah.
And the flowers are terrific for insects as well. I mean, they're really useful plants. Creating a natural balance in the garden encourages pest-eating predators. A good move if you want to avoid chemicals and go organic. Right, the divine vine. It's going to stay there for a long, long time, isn't it?
I hope so. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's attracted me to this permaculture idea, is that things do last. You're planting almost for the future, really.
I mean, that's what it means, doesn't it? Permanent agriculture or permanent horticulture.
Yeah, and there was a day when, you know, people used to plant walnuts and mulberries, and they wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't get a crop of those for years, but people would be planting almost for their children, I think.
Yeah.
You know, this is permanent planting compared with the annual veg planting that we do up the other end of the garden.
Yeah, most veg you grow in lines.
Yeah.
It's monoculture, isn't it? All one thing.
Yeah, and it's just on one layer. I mean, here, this is a good example. You've got a strawberry there, and then we're going to have a vine there. So in the same place, we're cropping at two levels.
The two are dependent on each other. There's no sort of competition. And I think it's really nice also leaving some of these things, you know, like your ivy and the bindweed and stuff, because they can all grow together happily.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
The vine and other fruit that we've planted will love it against this south-facing fence, appreciating the year-long warmth and shelter it provides. Adam's got another climbing plant that will be part of the food jungle, but he wants to put this one in the newly dug bed at the base of the wall. So we're going to plant this in the bed rather than up on the bank?
This is a yam. The part of the yam that you harvest is the root. Well, it's a tuber.
Yeah.
And apparently they can grow up to a metre long.
Right. So if it was up on there, it'd be bumping into stones and all sorts.
Well, yeah, it'd be quite crooked, probably.
Yeah.
But we'll see how this comes out.
Look, there's tuber there already.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Isn't that marvellous? It's
great.
not a metre long yet, but... This vigorous herbaceous climber needs some support, so we're training it up strings attached to the fence. Its shoots will eventually scramble through and intermingle with the other plants on the bank, and the tuberous roots should be ready for harvesting and eating by next spring. To finish off our food garden, we're planting the beds in front of the wall with shrubs and herbaceous plants that all provide something to eat. Daylilies provide a visual feast in the border and are also edible, tasting like a sweet lettuce. The transformation to the terrace is now complete. Soon the permaculture hedgerow will be a mass of fruit-bearing climbers and shrubs, and we can just sit back and let nature do the hard work. I think it looks fantastic. And in a year's time, it's going to be a complete edible jungle. I just wish it wasn't my last visit.
Yeah, so do I.
But since we've had to forego supper, I think you ought to join me in putting this eating lot to the test.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, one for you.
Please.
And I'm having the lion's share. It's gorgeous!
Isn't it? Can I have another about it? No, much.
No, he's so greedy, isn't he?
We'll take a break now, but when we come back, Anne-Marie is going to be helping Dilys Wilson prepare for a party in Gloucestershire. See you in a moment. Welcome back. Now, if you want a box hedge like this, it's going to be jolly expensive to buy, but you can grow your own really easily if you take box cuttings, and this is the perfect time of year to do it. When you take cuttings, always carry a polythene bag with you and put them in that, and that keeps them fresh. Mix up some compost, which is really free draining. I've added some grit to this John Innes #1, but anything that makes it good and easy for the roots to work in and so they don't sit in water. Fill a pot, and then take your box cuttings and strip off the bottom half of the leaves. If you can leave a plug of old wood, that's great, but don't worry if you can't. And if you want to reduce it, cut just below a leaf node, like that, and just pop them in. You don't need hormone rooting powder. Just work them around the edge like I've done these. And I do them in batches of 50. You can take plenty. Put them somewhere shady. Just keep them vaguely moist and leave them till next spring. They'll start to show signs of growth and you know then they've rooted. When they're looking nice and established, lift them up, plant them out, grow them on for another year or so, and you'll have hundreds of free box plants. Now, Anne-Marie is going down to Cotswolds, where she's seeing Dilys for the last time. Tucked away in the Cotswolds, no one has worked harder in their garden than Dilys Wilson. Determined to create a sense of order, she has transformed the area with meticulous precision. With the help of designer Anne-Marie, Dilys has introduced formal and decorative features, including an arbour in the centre, French potager in front of the house, and antiques on the courtyard wall. So, after the hard graft, has it all been worth it?
I'm really pleased with the way the garden's come on in such a short space of time. It's been a mess for so long, and it's really nice to see it, especially with Anne-Marie's help, just sort of really take shape. And I feel the structure is really all in place. And a lot of people keep saying to me, oh, the garden's all finished now. And I keep saying, no, it's just begun, because now it's the planting time. So I'm really pleased with the way it's sort of developed. So it's been good fun.
It's disgusting weather, isn't it?
It's great, isn't it? You know what I've decided to do?
What?
Have a party.
You can still have a party in the rain, though, can't you?
Yeah, an umbrella party.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be really nice to do something I've never done before.
What?
And that was put some lighting in the garden.
I think that would be fantastic. And even if the weather's appalling and chucking it down, or in the dead of winter, or, you know, snow, lights just really extend the garden, don't they? And you can see it from inside, and it's just a whole new picture, which I think is brilliant. You can't have a posh garden without posh lights. I mean, the secret with lighting really is less is more, to be honest. I mean, you don't want to have this sort of lit up like a football pitch, do you? Yeah, have you thought about where you want to light?
Well, I thought that it'd be nice to do something in the courtyard, because I have got lighting in the courtyard, but it doesn't do nothing for the atmosphere. It just sort of illuminates the area, but it's not very interesting. And then I also thought perhaps something by those steps so that people actually saw them rather than trip up them and then fall in the pond.
Good idea. Well, I definitely think you should light the pond. I mean, you can get submersible lights, actually, that float around and create this kind of, you know, mysterious atmosphere, if you like, this glow. And it's sort of, if you did like that, it sort of breaks up this middle sort of section, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you'll actually see that the garden is split into rooms after dark. I think that you should light the tree. I mean, that's such an obvious thing to light, because it is totally a separate focal point, isn't it, for the evening?
Yeah.
And the thing is then, even when it's dropped its leaves, it'll still look gorgeous even in winter. So
that's a lovely idea. No, I like that.
And I think as well, maybe something with the walls.
What about doing the back ones then? Because they're the tallest walls.
Yeah.
And they're also probably the nicest.
Yeah. We have to get some lights going there.
Right.
It'd be good to get an electrician as well. So, Ken, I'm hoping that you're going to make our lives a bit easier. Because this is a 12-volt system, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a 12-volt system. You will need a transformer, and it has to go inside the building, not outside.
Which basically means, and correct me if I'm wrong, basically what we're going to do is we're going to use a transformer to bring down the current of the mains in the house so that you can quite safely run it around the garden in a thing called a circuit.
That's right.
And then put the lights where we want them. We don't really need you for putting all of these in, do we? I mean, we can just...
No, you could just carry on and you put them where you want, I'll soon move on.
Ken and his assistant get busy laying the 12-volt cabling, leaving the run fairly accessible for any last-minute adjustments.
So what do you reckon, up here sort of thing?
Well, I thought we were going to have them here, but we've got all this trellis in the way. And we should maybe go down here. Put them at an angle.
Towards the cherry tree?
Yeah, and they will wash against the wall then, won't they?
Yep.
So if we leave these here for Ken, and then we can start down at the pond, can't we?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
OK. OK.
So,
right, these lights.
So the end mustn't get wet, is what Ken said, wasn't it?
If we get these in, Ken is going to kill us. And I've no doubt that he will. And I think it'd be nice to get some sort of foliage around these lights.
And really soften it all up and diffuse the light.
Yeah. OK, so I'm going to put this down here. How's that?
Brilliant, that's perfect.
I've just kind of rammed it in amongst the plant, actually.
That's perfect. What do you reckon we should do with the other one?
I think over there.
Right, what, in amongst the irises?
Amongst the bogbean, I think.
More bogbean?
Yeah.
We're sinking these lights below water level, but they'd be equally happy floating on the surface. Meanwhile, the electricians are busy wiring up the lights we've positioned. They're connecting each set of lights to separate switches, so Dilys can easily control the effects. Now it's time to illuminate the courtyard area.
So, what do you reckon?
I don't know, they're just very plasticky to me, and to be honest, the fittings, I know they'd be more expensive to get copper or aluminium or anything like that.
I have seen copper and aluminium, they're beautiful.
They are,
but they're
aren't
about
they?
100 quid a light.
Exactly, and these are a lot cheaper than that.
So the answer is to hide them with lots of plants.
Yeah.
So you just see the light rather than the receptacle.
Yeah, and at least they're not spots, at least they're forcing the light downwards, so they'll pick up the foliage and glow, hopefully.
I think they'll look lovely in the trough.
Dilys bought all the lights for under £150 from a local DIY store. The light for the tree is being angled upwards, so it'll reflect the canopy of the leaves. It's only an hour before the party starts, giving us just enough time to add some finishing touches. And when the sun goes down, the rain clouds obligingly blow over, and our newly installed lights really come into their own. And now's my chance to find out what the guests think of Dilys's garden.
I think she's gone from bonfires to beauty in a short space of time. She's put the rest of us to shame because we're struggling over the road to do ours.
I think Dilys is a total extrovert, really, in a nice way, I mean that. When she wants something, she gets it done. You know, you can clearly see tonight what it's been all about, so fair play to her.
From my window where I live here, it's just turned from being an actual bomb pit to being something which is spectacular.
Are you pleased with what we've done together?
Oh, really pleased. It's been hard work, but it's been good fun. You've been a good motivator, actually.
But you've really astounded me by the amount of work that you've done in between my visits. I mean, you've worked like a mad woman.
But it's just the beginning, really, isn't it? Because now the plants have got to do the rest, so...
Yeah, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure you won't let them not.
Well, that's it. We've come to the end of this series of Real Gardens. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the Real Gardeners at work with a little bit of help from us, and that it's inspired you to do more in your own garden and to enjoy your gardening. We've certainly enjoyed making the programmes. See you soon. Bye-bye.